Imagine a teenager strolling into your driveway, pointing at your Harley, and saying, I'll take that. Mom cleared it with the HOA. What would you do? I was halfway through a quiet Saturday. The kind where the coffee tastes like a small miracle, and the neighborhood still smells like fresh-cut lawns. The sun was easy. The breeze was soft, and my old oak was flicking dappled shadows across the concrete. Then this kid, 16, maybe marches up like a courier from some upside-down universe, plants his sneakers on my driveway, and points at my Harley. I'll take that one, he says. Not a grin in sight. Mom said it's mine now. HOA approved. I set my mug down very carefully, like it might shatter if I blinked wrong. Come again. He jerks his chin toward the cul-de-sac. That's when I see her, Karen. She's wearing sunglasses you could land a helicopter on. Arms crossed. A smile that says she's both judge and jury. She waves at me like we're brunch buddies. You don't even ride it. She calls out, let's do the right thing for the neighborhood. I ride it every weekend. I say, been mine for over a decade. Customized it by hand. It's not lawn decor. Karen strolls up my grass. Then donate it to my son. He turns 17 next month. And well, this would be a beautiful gesture. By donate, you mean hand over my motorcycle to your kid? Exactly, she says. Like I finally caught on. I laugh. I mean, I had to. That's not how any of this works. Her smile tightens. If you won't be neighborly, I'll escalate. At the time, escalate sounded like HOA theater. I didn't realize she had a whole season planned. I keep the Harley under the oak because that's the coolest shade. It's black, with a hint of midnight blue in the tank, if you catch it just right. The saddle is worn the way a good leather jacket is worn soft. Shaped to the miles we've done together. I got it a dozen years ago. When life was heavier, that bike got me breathing again. You don't just give away the thing that taught your lungs how to work. My neighbor, Ron, shuffled over after the kid and Karen retreated. He's got a baseball cap that looks older than some trees, and a way of talking that always lands on a joke. You all right, he asks. Looked like a peacock, strutted out of a courtroom, and right into your yard. Karen wants me to donate my Harley. I say, Ron whistles. To the Crown Prince. That'd be the plan. He glances at the house where Karen lives. The shutters perfectly even. The flower bed like it's measured by laser. You know she runs the board now. Right president since last fall. Folks didn't show up to vote, and well, here we are. Figures. I sip what's left of my coffee. It tastes bitter now. She said she'd escalate. Ron snorts. Buddy. She was born escalated. By midweek, there's a folded letter on my door. HOA letterhead. Heavy paper. Lots of bold words. Community courtesy notice. It says, noise complaints. Visual clutter. Inoperable vehicle displayed in public view. I blink at that last one. Inoperable. I ride the thing. She's trying to set the stage, I think. So I do the obvious. I take photos of the bike, the odometer, the fresh oil, print the maintenance receipts. I drop a friendly email to the property manager, Travis, with a half-dozen attachments and a very polite note that says, in essence, please stop letting fiction onto your letterhead. Travis replies the next morning. He's all neutral punctuation marks and customer service voice. We appreciate your commitment to the community's standards. He writes, please be advised that the board will review your documentation. You can hear the shrug from a mile away. You know, he signs off with warm regards. Like a space heater. I tell myself to let it go. Keep it easy. Don't take the bait. That lasted until Saturday afternoon, when I roll back from a short ride. Helmet hair. Bugs on the jacket. Big stupid grin, and 2 patrol cars slip into my driveway like sharks into a cove. Sir. Step away from the motorcycle. The officer's tone is steady. Not aggressive. Just professional. But my stomach drops. I ease back. Palms open. Is there a problem? Officer. We got a report of stolen property on scene. He nods at the Harley. Resident alleges you wrongfully took possession. Before I can answer, here comes Karen from behind her blinds. Like she's been crouched there waiting for the cue. The kid trails her. Arms folded. Chin out. There. She says. Pointing. He promised it to my son and reneged. That's theft. Now. I've lived through enough nonsense to know when to shut my mouth. I've got the title. I say. It's inside. Been in my name for years. Please remain where you are. The other officer says. Tell us where the documents are. We'll retrieve them. I give them the drawer. The folder. The color of the binder. I watch them walk past my family photos. Hear the file tabs whisper. The Harley sits quiet. The engine's still warm. Like a dog that knows better than to bark. They come back with the stack. Title. Registration. My name. Plain as sunlight. The first officer moves his thumb across the page. Nods once. It's his. Karen's mouth does a little stutter before she finds new words. Then, it's fraud. He misled us. Emotional damages. My son's been through so much, ma'am. The officer says. Patient, but done. This is civil at best. Please don't use emergency services to referee neighbor disputes. They leave. My hands shake once and then stop. I park the paperwork like a shield. I look over at Karen. She's scowling. But it's the calculating kind. The kind that makes plans. The next letter is louder. Formal violation. It announces community disruption. Failure to comply with neighborhood courtesy standards. There's a new line about verbal commitments to transfer property. Like you can notarize a rumor. I sit at my kitchen table with the pages spread out like a bad tarot reading. The oak outside scrapes the glass. I think about ignoring it. I think about selling the house and moving where there's more sky and fewer clipboards. Then I think about all the times someone like Karen wins because good folks are tired. I call Mark. Mark's an old friend from the veterans group. Steady voice. Good brain. He works over at the state attorney's office. Not my lawyer. Not here to give legal advice. Just a friend who knows how systems behave. I lay it all out, the driveway stunt. The cops. The letters that talk like a judge with a megaphone. He lets me finish. Then goes quiet for a breath. Sounds like she's weaponizing process. He says, if it were me again. Not legal advice. I'd document everything. Title. Photos. Timestamps. The police incident number. Any video. Then I'd bring it in for a look. On it. I say, thanks. Man. Also. He adds. Don't take the bait. Folks like that want you loud. Stay boring. Paper beats noise. I spend the next day building a folder that could stop a door. Screenshots. Dated photos. The maintenance receipts. A printout from the doorbell cam of the kid pointing at the Harley and saying, clear as a bell. Mom said you'd give it to me. I drop the stack off with Mark, who promises nothing, and says he'll run it by the right people to see if there's anything to be done about the bogus police call. Meanwhile, the neighborhood wakes up. D from across the street knocks with a casserole and 100 stories. She tried to tell me my wreath was non-seasonal in April. She says, April. Like. What even is that? Ron talks about the time Karen measured his grass with a ruler. Megan, board treasurer. Decent. Tired. Sends me a text that reads, I did not sign up for monarch duty. A notice drops into our mailbox's HOA meeting on Thursday evening. New business. It says, like that's not a warning label. On Thursday, I walk into the community room early. Clean jacket.
Quiet smile.
Folder under my arm. Fluorescent lights, hum. Coffee smells like burnt toast. Bill, the board president, adjusts chairs and tries to look like he isn't bracing for impact. Karen sits front row center with her son and two board allies flanking her like bookends. She's got a stack of papers high enough to shade a sunflower. We do the pledge. The minutes. The budgets. Then Bill taps the gavel. New business. Karen's hand shoots up so fast it leaves a breeze. I move that we sanction Mr. Owens for failure to fulfill a verbal property transfer, for community disruption, and for intimidating conduct toward me and my minor child. Bill's mouth opens and closes. This is about the motorcycle, yes. Karen says, with a sigh that could win an award. He promised it to my son. Then, he reneged. We attempted a polite resolution. He called the police on us. I stare at a spot on the wall, so I don't say something I can't unsay. Mark's words loop in my head. Paper beats noise. Bill nods. Turns to me. Mr. Owens, I stand. Set the folder on the table. And keep my voice steady. I never promised anything. Here is my title and registration over a decade in my name. Here is the police incident sheet showing no theft and no charges. Here are dated photos of regular use and service. Here is a transcript from my doorbell cam of her son entering my property, pointing at my motorcycle, and saying, Mom said you'd give it to me. And here is the violation letter I received, which references a verbal commitment that does not exist. I pass copies down the line. Paper whispers. The room shifts. Karen laughs. Brittle. He's manipulating the record. Megan, the treasurer, looks up from the stack. Karen, did you file the police report? I reported suspected theft. Karen says, which was reasonable given his behavior. Bill rubs his forehead. We cannot be the venue for extracting private property from a homeowner. That's not within our authority. Karen's voice goes sharp. So you'll reward bad actors. You'll ignore the emotional harm to my son. Ron raises a hand from the back. Question. Mr. President, are we allowed to just take people's stuff because Karen gets a feeling? A ripple of chuckles slips through, then dies when Bill lifts a palm. Enough. We'll take this under advisement. He glances at me. Mr. Owens, thank you for the documents. He glances at Karen. We are tabling this matter until our counsel can advise the board regarding misuse of the complaint system. Karen's jaw tightens. The kid mutters something I pretend not to hear. We adjourn. The coffee still tastes like burnt toast. 3 days later, a letter arrives from a law firm. It's got weight. It says cease and desist and accuses me of emotional misrepresentation to a minor, which I'm not sure is even a phrase outside of Karenland. It demands I surrender the Harley as restitution. I read it twice. Then I call Mark. She hired counsel, I say. Mark whistles low. Looks like a bluff. He says again, just as read. Not advice. But bluffs can do damage if you let 'em breathe. If it were me, I'd respond with facts. Calmly. And if she's using the association's name in ways it shouldn't be used, that's something their insurer might care about. I loop in a lawyer, friend from the veterans group. He tightens the language I drafted, stacks it with my evidence, adds a firm paragraph about harassment, and includes a sentence that says, "We're prepared to respond in kind if the nonsense continues." We send it certified. Paper beats noise. Then something strange happens, quiet. No knocks. No sirens. No letters. The street breathes for the first time in weeks. People start talking. Not whispering this time. Dee tells me about the time Karen threatened fines over a pastel door because it clashed with the community's mood. Ron laughs about the tape measure again, but there's no humor in it. A couple down the block shows me a photo of their service dog and the non-compliant pet warning they got for walking him before dawn. Folks are tired. Folks are ready. Megan texts, "Special meeting next Thursday. Petition to recall the president." My phone buzzes for a good hour after that, neighbors asking what to bring, how to vote, whether they can speak. I make one ask. Stay calm. Be factual. Paper beats noise. The night of the special meeting. The room is full. Folding chairs squeal. The air tastes like nerves. Bill looks like a man caught between a hurricane and a cliff. But his voice is steady. We have a petition signed by more than half of our homeowners, calling for a recall vote of the board president for misuse of authority and harassment. Karen isn't there. Word is, she sent a letter calling this a coordinated smear. The letter sits on the table, unread. Neighbors line up. Dee speaks first. Hands shaking. Voice clear. "I was told my wreath was non-seasonal in April." April. I felt bullied. Ron steps up next. "I got a warning for non-uniform grass height after I fixed my sprinkler." She took photos from my side yard. The couple with the service dog tells their story. I keep my seat until Bill nods my way. I stand and pick my words like stones across a creek. I'm not here because of a motorcycle. I'm here because process got twisted into a weapon. There's people who like power more than community. Sorry there are. Paper beats noise. We can be neighbors without being enemies. When the vote comes, it's quick. The ballots slide into a plastic box that used to hold cookies. Bill counts under the eyes of a volunteer and the association's manager. When he looks up, there's a tiny smile trying to grow. The motion carries. The president is recalled. A hush falls. Then, a soft wave of claps. The kind people use at church when they don't want to spook the blessing. No cheers. No gloating. Just relief. Afterward, folks mill around in the parking lot under a sky that looks scrubbed clean. Megan walks over. Her shoulders an inch lower than they've been in months. "I'm sorry," she says. "We should have stopped it sooner. You did the right thing when it counted." I say, "That matters." She nods. Glances at the Harley. "You really ride every weekend, every single one." I say, "It's the best hour of the week." She smiles. "Maybe bring it to the community picnic, not as a display. Just show folks what it means to you." I can do that. Sunday morning. I roll out at dawn. The streets are still. Dew strung like glass beads across the lawns. I take the long way out of the subdivision, easing past the spot where the patrol cars sat. Past Dee's porch. Past the corner where the kid tried to stare me down. At the stop sign. I breathe. Out on the county road. The air smells like hay and river. I keep the throttle low, neighbors sleeping, then open it a touch once I'm past the last mailbox. The engine answers me in that language. Only riders learn a steady forgiving rumble that says you're here. You're alive. Keep going. I think about the first time I rode after the divorce. I didn't have words for the weight I was carrying. The bike taught me anyway. The wind peeled the static off my skin. The road gave my brain a single job now. I found a way to be here again. You don't give that away. When I get back, Ron is out with his cap and a grin. Took the scenic route, had to make sure the universe still works. I say. He nods toward Karen's place. Her blinds twitch. She ain't done. He says, people like that don't just retire. I know. I say, but the rules ain't a crown anymore. We stand there a while talking about gutters and football, and the way the morning light makes the street look kinder. Dee waves from across the road and sets out a little table with cinnamon rolls. For a second, the block feels like an old photo in a family album, the good kind. The memory that doesn't hurt. The following week, we get a note. This one, different. Apology and policy update. It says, it's from the board. Signed by Bill and Megan. It acknowledges that the complaint system got used in ways it shouldn't have. It announces new steps, 2 signatures required before sending courtesy notices. Verification before calling law enforcement for non-emergencies. A mediation step that's actually voluntary. And a ban on officers entering private property to collect evidence without consent. It's not perfect, but it's a start. Travis, the property manager, adds a paragraph about training. He also uses warm regards. I still picture a space heater. But at least it's an honest one now. A day later, an envelope shows up with my name handwritten. It's from Karen. Inside is a single page with a sentence that feels like it cost her blood. I regret that our interactions caused distress to you and the community. No admission of anything. Just a thin ribbon of almost. I set it in the folder with everything else. Paper beats noise. That evening, the kid rides a scooter past my driveway. He slows. Stops. Kicks the stand. He doesn't look at me. He looks at the Harley. It's pretty. He says. Quiet. It is? I say. Took me a long time to get it right. He nods. Mom said you. Never mind. He scuffs his shoe. I thought it'd be mine. That was dumb. Want some advice you didn't ask for, I say. He shrugs. If you want something, work for it. You'll love it more that way. I pause. And when grown-ups use rules like a hammer, you don't have to be the nail. He doesn't say he's sorry. He doesn't have to. He pushes off and rolls down the street. Shoulders looser than when he arrived. At the community picnic, I park the Harley under a string of flags. Not as a trophy, just as something real. I wipe it down like I'm introducing a friend to a crowd. Folks gather. At first, because people always gather around machines that make beautiful noise. Then, because stories spill easier when there's chrome to look at. An older man with a cane tells me about his first bike. A scrappy thing he built from parts in a shed. A woman in a jean jacket says she used to ride with her sister down a beach road in college. A couple asks if they can take a photo standing near it, not on it. Just near it, and I say yes. Of course. Megan laughs when I tell her the maintenance schedule, which I've named and color-coded like a stubborn librarian. You really are a paperwork guy. She says, paper beats noise. I say, grinning. Dee brings me a plate that could feed an army. I'm proud of you, she says. And then, she pokes my chest like a grandmother. But don't get cocky. Humble rides. Okay, yes. Ma'am. I say. Copy that. Later. As the sun tips gold across the grass. Bill steps up with a short speech that isn't really a speech. We got lost for a bit. He says, "We forgot that rules serve people. Not the other way around. We'll do better. It's not fireworks. It's not a parade. It's a quiet promise in a park behind a middle school. Sometimes that's enough." 2 weeks pass. The street stops flinching. The oak drops leaves exactly when it's supposed to. The mail has normal things in it, flyers, bills. A postcard from my sister that says, "Come visit before the tomatoes give up." Life returns to its slow heartbeat. Then, one evening, there's a knock. Not hard. Not timid. I open the door to find Karen on my porch without the sunglasses. Without the crossed arms. Just a woman holding an envelope like it might bite her. "Can we talk?" she asks. I could say no. Part of me wants to. But I remember what it's like to be wrong and need a bridge. I step aside. She doesn't sit. She stands by the counter and looks everywhere but at me. I thought I was protecting the community. She says, voice small, "I thought rules were..." I don't know. She clears her throat. "Anyway, here." She sets the envelope down. Inside is a cashier's check made out to the association for a donation to the Neighbors Fund. Bill talked about starting. "For the hassle I caused." She says, not an apology, just an acknowledgement. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "Thank you." I say, "That'll help someone." She nods. "My son got a job bussing tables." She adds, "He wants to save for a project motorcycle. Says he'll build it himself." I can't help it, I smile. Tell him to start with something simple. And tell him when he's ready. I'll help him look it over. She blinks like I spoke a second language. Then she nods again, turns, and leaves. I watch the street swallow her, and feel something let go. A month later, the Harley still sleeps under the oak. I still ride every weekend. Sometimes, I let the engine idle a second longer than I used to, not to provoke. Just to listen to the sound that taught me how to breathe. The neighborhood knows the rhythm now. People wave. A dog barks once, and then gives up. The world doesn't end. A new family moves into the house at the corner. The little girl draws chalk suns on the sidewalk. Her dad asks about the best local pizza. Her mom joins the garden club and talks about tomatoes like they are people. Life keeps happening messy. Funny. Stubbornly normal. When I pass Karen on the street, we exchange nods. Not friends. Not enemies. Neighbors. That's plenty. Sometimes I think about how close I came to selling the house. How one loud voice almost convinced me this block wasn't big enough for folks who like wind and folks who like quiet. But it is big enough. It's big enough when we remember the rules are supposed to be guardrails, not battering rams. It's big enough when we show up to vote. It's big enough when we listen. If there's a moral here, it's not complicated. Paper beats noise. Kindness outlasts bluster. And you don't hand over the thing that kept you going. Not to a clipboard. Not to a crown. Not to a story that says you don't belong. So imagine that kid again. The one who strolls into your driveway and points at your motorcycle and says, "I'll take that. Mom cleared it with the HOA." What do? You breathe. You gather your papers. You show up. You remind the room that neighbors are people, not props. And you keep what's yours without becoming what you hate. Anyone else had a HOA pull something like this? Drop your story below. Seriously, tell me what you did. What worked. And what you wish you'd done sooner.